The Arrows Podcast is brought to you by Triumph Protective Coatings, which is a flooring company specializing in concrete polish, epoxy flooring systems, micro cement, and self leveling concrete. They speak Spanish and they offer awesome customer service. And you could reach them on Instagram, Triumph underscore coatings, looking them up on Facebook, Triumph Protective Coatings. You can email them, triumphprotectivecoatings at gmail.com. You can call them or text them at 666-436-4702. And if you use promo code ARROWSUP, you get 15% off on your next flooring project. So reach out to them, and they will take care of all your flooring needs. The Arrows Up podcast today, NFL Week 12, and I talk about just the trend that I'm seeing after Week 12, and get into a little bit of Man U and their coach, and JJ Redick, and the importance of coaches not being overly friendly with their players, because then they become useless. So that's the pod. Hope you enjoy it. Here we go. Welcome to the Arizona Podcast. On this episode, I wanted to talk about where we're at with the NFL at this current moment and what we've seen from the world of football. Now, not going to go game by game, not going to do the whole schedule and all that. I wanted to highlight some things that I've seen and I've noticed, and the trends from these first weeks from the NFL season. We are about to hit the Thanksgiving games, and this is where you get the teams that make the run, and after week 12, it's depending on what happens with the Chargers Ravens, the Packers will probably be the team that everybody gets excited about. But this NFL season has been interesting because we've had teams just pile up wins, and not everybody that has a good record is a team that we consider championship caliber. And it's interesting to see this play out because we're seeing game by game a very different type of conversation when it comes to the NFL season. Now, what we're seeing is there is the class of the NFC, which this year is the Lions. The Lions are the best team in the NFC and probably the best team in all of football, 10-1. And I said probably just because as long as the Chiefs have Mahomes and as long as he's healthy, we have to give him the benefit of the doubt. He has earned that. And so even though I don't think on paper or even just watching week to week that the Lions have played have been outplayed by anybody, except for their one weird loss. But besides that, I don't remember a game or a week where I'm like, man, this team is better than the Lions, and that includes the Chiefs. It includes the Chiefs because we've seen this team win throughout the season by a margin of 7 points, which is so ridiculous. So the Bucks game for the Lions is the what the hell happened there game. It was the second game of the season, and that's probably the best way to explain it. Baker was playing phenomenal, and he still is, but second week of the season, Baker's feeling himself, and they're healthy. The Bucks at least were at the moment, and that's what you have now. What we've seen, besides the Lions, who again best team in the NFC, probably best team in the NFL as well. With everybody else, the conversation has just been pile up wins, and we'll figure everything else out in the end. Just get the wins, get to the playoffs, and we'll figure it out. And we are potentially in store to have one of the best playoffs we've had in quite some time. Just because of that. Because we're gonna have teams that are going into the playoffs, and we're gonna be like, I don't know if this team could win the Super Bowl. But then you're in the playoffs, and anything can happen. And this is more than any other year in a long time. I feel like this is a year where we can get like a New York Giants type of Super Bowl victory, where they come out of nowhere, they get hot at the right moment, all of a sudden they're clicking, and next thing you know, you blink and they're like, this team is in the Super Bowl? Wait, this team's winning the Super Bowl? They sucked throughout the year, or they weren't that good. But it's kind of setting up that way, because we look around and we think, years past, for example, last year, we looked around and we said, the 49ers, for example, they're going to be right there. Niners haven't been all that great. They lose today in Lambeau, drop to 5-6. We thought the Jets were going to be good. Aaron Rodgers healthy. They're 3-8. We thought the Dolphins offense, Tua got paid. Waddle, Hill, 2 running backs, they're good. 5-6. You go to the AFC North. You think Burrow's healthy. You got Higgins contract year. 4-7. Browns, great defense. Maybe Deshaun Watson. Maybe he can get it going. Another year under his belt. 3-8. So you look around and you think Jaguars, maybe this is the year Trevor Lawrence breaks out. Maybe this is the year he shows. Maybe this is the year we get the Trevor Lawrence we thought we were going to get in the draft. 2-9. And so all of a sudden you look around and you think, well, who's the dominant teams besides, again, the Lions? Now you go to the NFC and you think Cowboys. Dak Prescott got paid. CeeDee Lamb got paid. It's a pretty, good roster. 4-7. The Saints got some smoke blown up their butt in the offseason. 4-7. The Bucks, Baker, he got contract, 5-6. Falcons made those trades, got some defensive help, paid Kirk Cousins. That offense is going to be good. 6-5. So all of a sudden, you look around and you think, who are these teams? Now, I'll read you this list. Vikings, Packers. So Vikings 9-2, Packers 8-3. Commanders 7-5. Chargers 7-3. Broncos 7-5. Texans 7-5. Although we thought the Texans would be better, but the Texans are in the group of, I thought they'd be better. Some people had them in the Super Bowl, predicting them to be in the Super Bowl. C.J. Stroud, can this be the year? And C.J. Stroud has struggled this season. He has not looked good throughout the year. And I know Stephon Diggs went down. He's out for the year. But he just does not look great. And it's the league has caught up to him. And maybe he makes an adjustment. Hopefully, I'm hoping he makes an adjustment. Because he was phenomenal his rookie year. But he has not been good this season. Not at all. And you think, like, man, he's regressed. And now you look at the Texans, like, the Texans aren't going to win the Super Bowl. The Texans can't make it out of the AFC. They can't. So we think, right? We go to the north. You look at the Ravens. You think, oh, maybe Baltimore. Baltimore. They got Henry. They got Lamar. They got weapons. The defense is not that good, but hey, it's Baltimore. 7-4. They kind of struggled, and it's typical Baltimore. When Baltimore's up by 21, they look like the best team ever, and when it's close, they look very flawed and very beatable. 7-4. You look at the Steelers. And the Steelers, we thought Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, either way, Steelers on contention. Mike Tomlin, I get it. He wins at least 50% of his games throughout the season. Whatever. TJ Watt, best defensive player in football probably. But you look at it and you're like, doesn't matter. Not that great. They're 8-3. They're leading the division. You look at the Bills. You thought, well, the Bills, terrible cap space, had to get rid of a lot of their weapons just to clear cap space. Transition year. Next year's the year where they get some cap flexibility. They'll be able to be in contention next year. And Josh Allen said, nope, I'm Josh Allen. I'm good enough. 9-2. And Josh Allen right now is the MVP. Right now. And so you look at that and you say, okay, but can the Bills actually win the Super Bowl? Can we imagine them beating the Chiefs in the playoffs? I know they've done it 3 times already in the regular season, but can they do it in January? And I think we still have a hard time imagining that. The Eagles, 9-2, dismantled the Rams today. Saquon Barkley rushed for another touchdown as I'm recording. But we look at the Eagles and we say, Nick Sirianni is going to somehow screw this up. Which is funny. We look at them and they have a good team, naturally, right? They always do. They have great, just great institutional just knowledge of how to build a football team there. And we look at Sirianni, we think this guy's going to screw it up. He hasn't so far. They're 9-2. But if we say the Eagles are the favorite to win the Super Bowl, or one of the favorites, you're like, maybe. We don't respect them at 9-2. The Commanders have kind of come down to earth, but they're 7-5. 7-5, the Commanders. The Vikings 9-2. Remember a few years ago, Kirk Cousins, the Vikings, they won a bunch of games, and everybody was like, "Yeah, the Vikings have a good record, but they're not gonna do anything." They lose in the first round to the Giants, and that's kind of like how we're looking at Sam Darnold and these Vikings. Like, good story. They're not actually gonna do anything. The Packers, 8-3. This team, and everyone's like, the Packers. The Packers are too good on paper and too good of a record, too good of a record for them to qualify for the Giants theory. But this is the team. Everyone's like, hey, don't forget about the Packers. Don't forget about the Packers. They're 8-3. And, Jordan Love throws the ball to the other team a lot. He just does. Untimely interceptions. Even the Lions at 10-1, they have such a great team. We trust their coach. Well, we like their coach. But at the same time, and I know that Sirianni gets a lot of crap, and I think a lot of it, the Sirianni stuff, is because he just doesn't seem like a very likable guy. But I could see Dan Campbell being way too aggressive and costing them a game in the playoffs. He did it last year against the Niners. So I could see Dan Campbell getting way too aggressive. And the Lions losing because of that. I could see Jared Goff throwing a bad interception because Jared Goff does that. That's what he does. Now the South. Can we imagine the Falcons making the Super Bowl? No. Baker. Can you imagine Baker in the Super Bowl? And all of a sudden you think, Baker could be like that Eli Manning type of team. I'm not saying they are. I'm just, going through this exercise that this NFL season is feels very similar to that season in 2007, where the Giants came out of nowhere. They came on, and all of a sudden they were on the road, backs against the wall. They had been playing playoff games since late November, that when they got to the playoffs, they had already been in that mentality, and they were in a bunker mentally, and they kind of just went all the way through. You got to the NFC West, where every team is done and every team is alive. Seattle, 6-5. A few weeks ago, they had lost 5 of 7, and we thought, Seattle's done. Geno, done. They beat the Niners last week. They beat the Cardinals this week, and all of a sudden, they're first place in the NFC West. The Seahawks, can they do it? Yeah. The Cardinals, everybody was like, Cardinals, they're feisty, they're good. Kyler Murray, they're in all these games. They looked awful today against Seattle, 6-5. The Rams, they got good offense. Stafford still has enough in the tank. Their defense is young, and certain times, depending on who they're playing, they can look fast and nasty. They have McVay, who's top, 5 coach in the NFL. Could they do it? The Niners, a bunch of injuries. Stupid Niner fans saying that Shanahan's seat is hot. He's under pressure, which is stupid. But you think of it and you say, can the Niners be the Giants? And this is where this exercise kind of begins to take shape. Because I think we could believe Lions, Super Bowl, they've been that good. Chiefs, they've done it. Everybody else, you can make an argument for. And depending on how good your argument is and how good you are at constructing an argument, it might be a winning argument. I'm just prepared to have a team in the playoffs from either conference, or maybe both, get hot at the right moment, and we look up in January and say, remember we thought this team was done? They're about to play in the Super Bowl. And it kind of feels that way this year. But for now, the mentality, the game plan for everybody, win and get in. Figure it out later. Can you imagine Jim Harbaugh in the playoffs? Toughing it out. And all of a sudden, Jim Harbaugh in his first season making to the AFC Championship game. Yeah, you can see that. But you give yourself a chance by making the playoffs. Mike Tomlin. You can see him just making it ugly, and all of a sudden, the Steelers in the AFC Championship game. You're like, how is this possible? Well, because you just got to make it. You got to make it. And so it's why, as much as we want to throw dirt on the NFC West, any one of those teams gets out of the NFC West, whoever gets out of the NFC West, will have a legitimate chance to make the Super Bowl. And that is why, even though the Niners look bad today, the Rams look bad today. You say, they're still alive. They're still in it. Because that division is still it's a long way from being decided. And that's where we're at. So, that's where we're at in the NFL season. I wanted to hit 2 more things. Manchester United got a new coach, and a few weeks ago made his debut today, Ruben Amorim. And I love this guy. I love this guy already. Because he is speaking with truth. He is speaking with boldness. He's not afraid. He's empowered. And he is saying all the right things for a coach to be saying, which I know doesn't really mean much if you say all the right stuff and don't actually do all the right stuff. But he is not about coddling any of these players. He is not about making friends with any of these players. He is about winning. And one of the things that's plagued Manchester United is, at least in the recent history, is the fact that a lot of these managers have brought in players that they like, players that they are a fan of. You saw with Ten Hag, he brought his favorite people from Ajax. It's why Manchester United paid over 100 million for Anthony, who has been a disaster. Paid a lot of money for Onana, who has been a disaster at times. And Amorim has been a very Mourinho type of coach, where what he is bringing and what he's saying is it's all about the team and it's all about his style. And the team will be successful if they play his style. And Manchester United tied today, and he came out and said there's going to be some suffering because these players are going to have to get to know my style, and they're going to have to play my style if they want to play. And I think we're finally getting the revolution we wanted at Manchester United. We're finally getting the change that we, as fans, wanted, where the coach is coming in not to be the coach's, not to be the player's friend, not to coddle them, but to challenge and push the logo above the names. And if you don't like it, the door's there. And I think it's amazing to finally have this type of coach. Finally have a coach that's going to keep these guys accountable. Not for stupid things. Not for he was a jerk or he said mean things or whatever. But for the stuff that matters. And Ten Hag had a complex about him, and it's why he got into it with Ronaldo. It's why he got into it with Sancho, because he wanted it was his way or the highway, even to a detriment. And we saw a lot of bad performances, and we saw a lot of coddling from him for the guys that he liked and the guys that he didn't like. We saw him kind of like thrown under the bus, and that's not what we want. If it's gonna be your highway, your way or the highway, like it is for a lot of the best managers in the world, it has to be your way or the highway with everyone, but always with the intention and with the motive and with the purpose of winning. That's what happens in Manchester City. That's what happened with Klopp in Liverpool. That's what happens in Real Madrid. That's what happens in Barcelona now. That's what happened in Bayern in their prime as well. Where you're going to play their style. But if the coach doesn't like you, and if the coach isn't a fan of you, but you give them the best opportunity to win, you're going to be on that field. And that's really what it should be about. And Amorim is speaking like a coach and is acting like a coach so far that would do that. And that makes me really excited as a Manchester United fan, because coaching is obviously a difficult job, but coaching, when it kind of becomes a friendship thing, becomes useless. A coach that wants to be liked by his players is a coach that will sooner or later become a liability to the team. And it's why I like JJ. Switching it to the Lakers, I like JJ, but I hope he's able to stand on it as a coach and hold these guys accountable and get on them when he has to. and require more of them when he has to, and not just let him get away with it because he wants to be cool with them, or because he, in terms of LeBron, like he did a pod with him. And I hope he is able to call him out. I hope he's able to stay on it, because if not, he will be like every other coach that's coached LeBron, who wanted LeBron to like him, and what LeBron does is care for LeBron. And so Amorim is not here so far to make friends. He's not here to be liked first and foremost. He's here to build a team. And I'm here for it. So, love that. Love that about him so far. Love that's the direction the board decided on. And I hope that it produces a lot of winning. I hope that it brings about a change and a return to the greatest heights and the highest of heights for the best team and the most legendary team and the biggest team in England. I hope that is what takes place for Manchester United. Now, final thought. My final thought for today is I was going through, and I was kind of seeing just different games today, and seeing how the game is covered, and seeing just the different ways that the announcers kind of lose their minds over things that are not real. I know that the media companies are partners with the NFL, with the sports, and I know that they're partners with the leagues and all that. And I know this is why there's podcasts. This is why we have things like TikTok and Everybody Else Talk Sports, which is, a large group of people and a large group of a large audience, a large group of those of people that just talk about it. So, but it'd be nice if the people calling the games, the people covering the games on TV, would be more willing to be more critical, not of the leagues per se necessarily, but just everything in general, and have a more honest conversation about what we're seeing, about what's happening, because there is two different conversations happening. The conversation that the media and the announcers and everybody on TV is having, and the conversation that is happening on Twitter. And it's why you get like my little brother calls it the glazing of some guys, where like Mahomes, for example, could do the most ridiculous thing, and it's like, oh my God, if another player does something comparable, it's like, yeah, whatever. And I think it's time that we acknowledge that and bridge those conversations, because they have to be kind of brought together, because there's two conversations happening in sports between the people covering the games and everybody else. And it'd be nice if it was more united and more a one conversation, and what's being talked about on TV would be mirroring what is talked about day to day, because they have access to that. So it's possible to make that happen. So that's my final thought. So that's the pod. Yeah. So I'll talk to you Wednesday. Till next time. That's the pod. Thank you to Angel. Thank you to Triumph. I'll talk to you again on Wednesday with Christian Worldview Wednesdays, where we continue our little series on stewardship. What is a steward? December is upon us. Thanksgiving's upon us. Can't wait for that. Talk to David, and the Black Friday pod will be we'll talk about Thanksgiving and food a little bit, because we all love to talk about food. We all love to talk about Thanksgiving food mainly, but yeah. So I will talk to you then. Until next time, you can follow us on Instagram at RoseUp, YouTube channel, RoseUp YouTube channel. And I haven't done the Instagram shorts in a while. I'll start back at it again after like something happens or whatever. I'll get back on those. Follow us on Instagram. Check us out. Listen to this podcast anywhere you get pods. So please rate, review, and subscribe. 5 stars. 5 stars. So until next time. Hala Madrid. Glory, glory, Man United. Viva la máquina. Let's go Lakers. And I'm probably delusional. Somehow the Niners are still alive. So let's give it up. Bang, bang, Niner gang. The Arrows Up Podcast is brought to you by Triumph Protective Coatings, which is a flooring company specializing in concrete polish, epoxy flooring systems, micro cement, and self-leveling concrete. They speak Spanish, and they offer awesome customer service. And you could reach them on Instagram, Triumph_Coatings. Looking them up on Facebook, Triumph Protective Coatings. You can email them, triumphprotectivecoatings@gmail.com. You can call them or text them at 666-436-4702. And if you use promo code ARROWSUP, you get 15% off on your next flooring project. So reach out to them, and they will take care of all your flooring